Hey, welcome to Fireside Tats, the official podcast of the Tattoo Improvement Network. Go to tattooimprovement.com, blah, 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 sign up. I'm here with Babak. We've talked about Babak in this show at least once, maybe more than once. I don't know, a couple times probably. You're Fireside legend.
Right, totally.
Babak and I work together. Babak's another Memphis tattooer, which I'm glad, because we don't promote Memphis tattooers really enough, do we? We like interview tattooers all over the place, but nobody from Memphis. So, and I don't know why. We should push our own tattooers more. Yeah. So Babak and I worked together at Underground Art for what, maybe 3 years ago, 4 years. So.
In 2012.
Okay,
so 3 years ago.
For about a year or so, and then Babak opened this space, Ronin, shortly after that. And how's that been going since?
Pretty rough at the start. Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about the challenges just getting
Okay, so I signed a lease here in November of 2011. So I guess it was 2011 is when I worked at Underground Art. I started there in January and finished in January of 2012. But in November of 2011 is when I signed the lease here, because I've been kind of looking for a place that to open up on my own, and
it's more of a private studio than like a shop.
Yeah, we don't have. Yeah, it's by appointment only. We don't really have any. Some Broad Avenue, and if you're familiar with Memphis, there's
not a lot of
there's not traffic. A lot of walking traffic here, except for like when they have events and stuff, which gets pretty crowded. But I was unaware of the zoning laws for tattoo parlors had changed. In 2010, they hired a city planning company to come in, and they rezoned all the commercial properties in Memphis, and they relegated tattoos or tattoo studios to adult entertainment. So basically, we were in the same category as strip bars, massage parlors, things like that.
Okay.
And
has that been changed, or did you just get...
I think that's been changed since. I think in 2013 they finally reverted back to being a class one, like a beauty parlor, beauty shop, okay. Where it was before, basically service retail.
Yeah.
And they had deemed Broad Avenue as a class one, so we were class three then. So my landlord didn't tell me anything about that, and so when I went to go get my permit, my occupancy permit and all that stuff, they refused to do that, and I had done all the made all the requirements to be able to get in, and if it had been up to the city, they would have let me do it. But since Broad Avenue was being basically overseen by the Broad Avenue Art District.
Right. That's one thing we didn't mention. This is actually an art district.
Yeah.
So that's the most ironic thing, is that you couldn't have a tattoo shop in an art district.
And it's not even like it's not a street shop with piercings and flash hanging everywhere. It's not not that anything wrong with that, but it's just not that kind of shop. And they nixed it. So basically, it took a process of about another 9 months, and some media awareness of what was going on with the city, and some petitions, and basically me going up to the city council and county commission once a month for 6 months, and giving speeches about the merit of me being opening a business here, a tattoo shop in the art district of Broad Avenue. And how
was that received the first time you walked up to the city council and talked about that?
I think that more than anything, as when the city council and the county commission people started becoming aware of what kind of shop I was opening, they were more, they couldn't understand Broad Avenue's stance on it.
Right.
And it wasn't really Broad Avenue's stance as a whole. It was a couple of real estate developers that have taken over some of the property here and thinking that we're going to, build a, I have no idea what they think.
Right.
They thought
some
that
really upscale kind of
it was like
thing.
Really just not at all what fits the neighborhood. But and also convincing them that if they look at nationally or even locally, any of the more art districts or more of a some of the neighborhoods in the city, like Cooper Young and Pinch District, and even Overton Square, Highland, all those places, that have more of an alternative, business that flourish there, there's always an anchor tattoo shop in those neighborhoods.
In every one of those neighborhoods.
So, it made perfect sense for me to be here. There was no reason for it. But
that was an interesting angle to come at it from. I wouldn't have thought of it that way, but you're exactly right.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at anywhere in the country, you've got, in the Belmont area, you've got, Tattoo Deluxe and all those places up there. You've got, Magazine Street and all that. You've got, Eye Candy, and there's all sorts of every city, every neighborhood like that has, tattoo shops that are, real. They're not necessarily upscale or anything, but more custom arts, more art oriented rather than
street shops.
Yeah, street shops.
Right.
So, but yeah, since I wasn't about to open up, by the airport, I decided, I just stuck with it and
because you had already signed the lease, and had you even started building out the space?
I already invested. I was already built out.
Yeah, I thought so.
All the walls, everything was already built out, and I already invested a bunch of money. And with the belief and the encouragement of most of the neighborhood, they were like, they were cool about it. But then, when it came time to actually go before the city council and get the votes and everything, they changed their mind.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm glad to hear the story all the way through. We didn't talk a lot for whatever reason during that period, and I know I was here one day, and you were showing me the build out, and everything seemed like it was going well. And the next thing I know, you're in the Memphis Flyer talking about how you couldn't open a custom tattoo shop like 3 doors down from a gallery or from an artist's private studio space or whatever. And it just seems, and that's literally what this entire street is crafts, like little galleries or actual art galleries, painting galleries,
little bars,
little bars, so it's just it was mind blowing. I couldn't wrap my brain around it, and I really never did understand why.
Historically, you're from Memphis. You know what Broad Avenue was like. 10 years ago. Barely dare to walk down here. After dark or whatever. And there's only what Broad Avenue or Broadway Pizza was the only place that was really open here.
Right.
10 years ago, till all these everybody else decided that they were gonna cash in on the whole thing. Still, we're in the middle of Binghamton. It's not like, there's, still a kind of a, high crime area and,
it's still some
north and south
areas
of here. So it's, it's not but then there's still, there are people trying to, there's families that live here and there's no reason that, there's just no reason for me not to be here.
Sure.
So it was idiotic.
Yeah. Okay. So since getting through that, since being open, the differences in running a private studio, and you've worked in custom shops, but then also high traffic shops too, over by the University of Memphis, and then our shop, which doesn't have quite the traffic. So you've worked in several different styles of shop. What was the biggest change? Was there a lot to get used to moving to a private studio? Are you constantly worried that appointments are going to dry up since no one can walk in the front door?
Well, one of the biggest things for me was the fact that I'd sort of been out of the loop for over a year and a half. So I wasn't consistently tattooing and being referred to friends or anything like that. So I was basically since I quit over at Underground until I opened here, it was almost a 2-year period. I basically did not tattoo. I went out of town and tattooed at friends' studios and did a couple of conventions and such. But that completely really made me somewhat irrelevant. Right. And it's the tattoo industry and the tattoo world, the scenes and everything. So what have you done for me lately? Kind of an attitude about a lot of it and I think that it took, a good 6 to 9 months or so. That first year especially was getting reestablished, letting people know that I was actually open. There were still, I've had, even just a few months ago, people were like, "Oh, did you ever finally open your shop?" I was like, "Yeah, I've been
several
open."
Years now.
But yeah, that's all the out of my old clients, came on pretty quick, and then I've had a ton of referral work and stuff.
Yeah.
So I stay busy. I mean, I tattoo. I can tattoo every day, if I want. And
did you find that you had to, or did you have to promote yourself differently, like it's like online and things like that? Was that a big like kind of shift, or
Well,
were you
you know,
already doing some of that? I don't really know.
Honestly, that I wasn't posting or doing any kind of promotion
that
that
period,
first year because I couldn't.
Yeah.
And
that was really a hard, hard hit.
Yeah, it was, and so in a lot of ways, I think the fact that I've started tattooing here and I've had all my pretty much my entire career except the time that I was in Chattanooga for about 3 or 4 years,
It's all been
it was all local, so
right.
that was a good thing, and I had made a lot of friends and personal contacts through working at different shops and stuff, and even at Underground Art I had a lot, most of my clientele were people from the old shop and
Right.
other clients and stuff. I didn't, since there's really not a whole lot of walk-in and stuff. I mean, I did a few things that were new clients from Underground, but mostly was my old clients. So it's been kind of the same way here, and also picking up. I've had one of the things about working. It's I do work in isolation in a way. There's not a lot of I don't get a lot of feedback, or I don't have a lot of
Interaction
with other artists,
Yeah.
and especially tattooing wise, at least. I've been able to do. We have gallery space, so we have different artists come in, and I've had a chance to kind of look at their stuff and interact that way, but not tattoo wise. So it's been kind of.
That's the first time in your career that's ever happened, huh? You've always been at shops.
In Chattanooga, I had Paul came out there. I was working with him, so there was at least another person there. But here it's been
Just you.
just me.
So that leads. So you brought on an apprentice recently, and a lot of our listening base is either a lot of young tattooers, like in the first 5 years or so of their careers, right, or people that are looking to get into tattooing. We had a lot of people that are sending us portfolios to review and stuff, and so that's the biggest questions we get is how do I prepare my portfolio? How do you look at people's portfolios? What do I expect in an apprenticeship? Am I going to start tattooing immediately? And of course, there's no like cut and dry answer for any of that. Everyone has their own approach. But what has your approach been with your new apprentice?
With me, the first thing that I look at as far as someone bringing in a portfolio or their artwork is line quality. And like currently with Claire, the girl that's apprenticing with me, her line work, she went to art school in Kansas, graduated, and she's done a lot of commercial work, like, has done a lot of album cover work, flyers, posters, logos, and her principal medium is pen and ink.
Okay.
So
that translated pretty immediately.
Yeah, it was really, it was immediately when she showed me, I was like going, I think she could. If she got a handle on the technical aspects, she'd do fine.
Yeah.
And she is slowly. She picked it up actually fairly quickly, but she's. You can tell when someone cares a great deal about what the product, their final product, is always going to be real meticulous and self-conscious of what they're doing.
Right.
So.
So
the fact that
in that boat right now.
Yeah, her line work and everything on paper would look really clean. She, there's a certain level of pride you have to take. I'm not gonna really like look at anything in a book that's like, if you bring me a bunch of notebook pages with the weird pencil sketches of, things that you've copied from, tattoo magazines or something.
You want to see people's own ideas on paper for one thing, not just reproductions, line quality, and that's so important just because the breaking down or separating like the technical side of tattooing from the art side, good line quality is so important just to the structure of tattooing, and it takes a certain amount of confidence to put in solid lines. So the more confident you are, say with a micron or something like that, making clean Sharpie marks or something, the more likely that is to translate. Is that kind of your thought process behind that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that especially technically, once you start tattooing, you have I've been using rotary machines for about 2 years now, and the consistency that a rotary machine provides, as opposed to a coil that you may or may not have to tune fairly regularly.
Right.
Obviously a well-built coil machine. I have a few that I've barely ever had to do anything to, and they're still run great. But over time, that spring is going to wear out.
Right.
The way it hits the skin is going to change. But with the rotary and its consistency now, she's been able to do reproduce her own artwork, pretty accurately. And I think that is way different than like maybe when we started, when we basically had to we were scratching our heads trying to figure out what the hell was going on with the machine that worked perfectly on one tattoo, and then just crapped out on the next one.
That's one of the biggest changes, I think, is that the kind of resurgence of the rotary machines, and I completely agree. I feel like I've been the same. I've been using rotaries for a couple of years now, and I don't. At this point, I don't think I can get the same effects or pull off the same things with a coil machine, simply because I think that as consistent as rotaries are, I'm able to be confident in a fill or a line, and then I've done less trauma to the skin in that single pass, so I can come back in another pass and glaze something in the same sitting, and I couldn't have pulled that off with a coil machine just because of what you're saying.
There's no way. I mean, it's because that's one of the things that, like you're talking about, as far as that is the biggest thing, is trauma to the skin. A rotary is going to go as deep into the skin as you apply pressure with your hand. It has nothing to do with, what part of the body you're working on, because that needle is always going to go just as deep as you press on the skin.
Right.
Whereas a coil, the spring tension is always going to reduce how much the needle penetrates. So if you're working on a tougher part of the skin, the outside of the arm or something, that coil machine might not, you might have to go over it a couple more times just to get it to,
Right.
And with an apprentice, especially, now, using rotaries right off the bat and being able to, reproduce a true image of what they want, then, especially with line work.
Yeah.
That, their confidence immediately is gonna, and those mistakes that you make are always going to be, they're going to be glaring just as well. That way, at least you know what you did, and you know that it's you that did it, and
not the machine.
Not the machine.
Yeah.
And we're just Will Wood is doing a guest spot this week here, and we were just talking about that. It's like with you can't blame anyone, anyone else with a rotary.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's one more kind of variable that you take out of the equation for someone that's already overwhelmed trying to figure out how to put a tattoo in skin. It's such an overwhelming thing to start with, and when your tools are inconsistent, which they, like you're saying, coils almost always are. It's just one more variable to add to confuse people, and older tattooers that haven't switched to rotaries don't really get that yet. They have this old idea of rotaries from before I was tattooing that I never really used. But the rotaries today have cushioning built in there where they hit softly. They're very consistent.
Yeah,
they always
like a linear drive and a direct drive. They're always they're gonna tattoo differently. Yeah, there's just there's the people have been perfecting rotaries, especially the last few years, to the point where there's almost no need to rely on a coil, even though I have to say that I've had a couple of coil liners that lined perfectly for for a good while, but then something happened. The spring wore, and then you want to retune it or whatever, and it's not really that convenient to me to pack up a machine and send it to the builder to get him to tune it again just the way that it was when he built it 10 years ago. Because he's building machines totally differently now. The geometry changes constantly with coils and frames and stuff. So it's with rotaries, it's just not, there's just not much variables. It's always,
when it stops running, you throw it away and get a new one.
Yeah, pretty much. We just get a new motor, easy.
Yeah. So. I agree. And what always frustrated me most with coils, because I've thought it was important to learn my tools, so I can tear a coil machine down and
Oh, yeah.
build it back. And I think a lot of guys who have been tattooing that long can, but it doesn't mean that I want to do it in the middle of a tattoo or have to stop what I'm doing to like change gloves and unbag a machine to start screwing with it. I want it to work the way that it starts the tattoo. I want it to finish the tattoo that way.
And also, it's not even so much as like rebuilding the machine itself. You still, I cut my own springs and I got, I was, I think that I got pretty consistently, I got good with it, and I had friends that, other tattooers that had me cut springs for them and tune their machines and stuff, and I became pretty proficient at it, but even to this day, I can't tell you exactly what it was that I was doing to make it right, just to feel kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And I know that there's like all sorts of, duty cycles and, all this, shit that you hear these, coil.
My power supply reads out all these things that are worthless to me.
I don't even use. I don't use a digital. I just use a power supply. It has no readouts or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I go by what the machine sounds like and how it feels as far as the, I probably should get a digital, but I had a digital for a long time, and I get it. It was giving me all sorts of numbers, and I could rely on it somehow. But the coils never really ran the same, you know. And I've never run a digital dial machine with my.
None of those numbers matter with a rotary because it's all based, follow through. And it's all voltage stuff. So it's they're all kind of they don't mean anything other than the voltage. That's the only thing you really need to look at.
So it's like between 5 and 8 volts. I'm not pretty sure.
Yeah,
I'm
you
pretty
figure
sure
that
mine's
out.
set between 5 and 8 volts.
Right. Are you still using traditional tube and needle setups, or have you moved over to cartridges?
I've been using disposables.
Cartridges or
I don't
disposable
use cartridges.
Okay.
No, I've never used a cartridge. Use one?
Yeah, I've switched to those exclusively.
Really?
I love them. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I've used the Cheyenne Hawk Thunder machine,
Right.
so I can dial in the not actually the stroke, but the needle depth to set the depth differently, and so I use it to line and shade. So basically, it replaced. I'll get out 4 cartridges. And I have one machine, but I essentially have 4 machines. I'll have like a tighter liner. I'll have a big curved mag. I'll have a smaller mag. And I can switch out, or I'll have a loose round shader. So it's basically like I have 4 or 5 machines, and all I have to do is click, 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 click. I really like them. Yeah, they're cheap. So
Really? Mm-hmm. Oh.
Yeah. I'm not trying to sell you on them. I'm just saying.
No, I mean that's cool. I mean I don't. Number one, I just use like my direct drive that I use, and I use a Dan Cuban, a couple of linears, one from I've got a Amoeba Designs. Krista Whitney builds some really cool machines, and then Dan Cuban. I've got one of his MC14s. They're awesome.
I love the way they look. I've never used one. Jeff Ensminger used Dan Cubans on my entire torso.
Man, they're awesome. Actually, right now I'm waiting on a linkage, a newer linkage. He had to basically refit these newer linkages to his older machines. They ran better. They're running better or whatever. But yeah, I love that machine. I've been lining with it, ever since I got it, and then I started lining with that direct drive since that one's been down, and I've actually gotten used to it, almost more. I think that my lines with the direct drive are going in almost cleaner, more consistent than the other linear, because it's running on a kind of like a spring, almost. But I don't know. I'm not going to be using coils ever again.
I doubt.
But
and
cartridges. I mean, I don't think that. I mean, I guess I can run cartridges with those.
Now they're making. I know FK Irons and a few other ones are starting to make disposable grips that are cartridge grips. So they already have the plunger built in, and you just snap the cartridges in and out. And the grips themselves are disposable. I don't know how affordable that stuff. I feel like if you're buying the disposable grips with the with all the plunger already built in and the cartridges, it might get to be a little pricey. With Cheyenne, the grip is permanent, and so so I don't have to replace it ever. It's just the cartridge tip. And
you still have to autoclave that, right?
Yeah, you still have to autoclave.
We don't even have an autoclave
what I do, I mean, if you want to use the grip normally, what I do is I bag the entire thing and wrap it in Coban, so I never touch the grip. so it's bagged and co-band. But so I don't autoclave them. But if you wanted to use the grip without doing that, then yeah. I'm putting a sleeve over my clip cord or my cord anyway,
Yeah,
so I just run
yeah.
it with that Cheyenne. It's basically, I mean, there's not much to that machine. It's just like an extension of the cord, basically, so you can run straight up over it. So you've got.
I've seen those. Have you seen those? I don't know who makes it, but this is like a stylus almost.
They're making those now.
They
The
make
Cheyenne's
those?
yeah,
Okay.
I looked at it. We were just at the Ink and Iron Fest a few weeks ago, and they had them there.
That's
and
weird.
They're really weird looking. They're so crazy expensive. They're like $800.
That's like I remember when the Numas and stuff like that would come out. It was like $1,300 for a setup. I'm just like, you're.
You had to switch over and start running silent air compressors and stuff.
We were at a convention and I think somebody like I don't know, maybe like some big maybe Guy Atson or something was getting he was like getting them to use the Numa, see what he thought or whatever. And I think that in the space of like half a day that we were hanging out, I was watching a friend of mine get worked on. We heard him like he changed out. Got 3 different ones because they kept crapping out.
I know those came and went pretty fast. That I never really even saw one in person. But I knew when you had to change everything. No power supply, no anything. So I didn't think that would go over very well, anyways. So you've got 4 stations here at this space?
3 stations right now. It can probably convert into 4. I've got another room that we opened up and eventually going to have 2 more stations back there.
So your goal is to bring in more artists. You're going to try to.
Yeah.
Okay. Will you change the setup at that point and make it more like front desk, open door?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. At that point, I figure a good 4 or 5 year plan. At some point have like about 5 artists consistently here. So.
Yeah.
But it's building up to that point.
Yeah. Well, good. I know that. But in this town, it's tough to. It's not always easy to find a lot of really competent artists, and then the risk you run, something that Underground I know has run into, is that we've had to apprentice several artists because we found good artists, but we haven't found good tattooers.
Right.
So then you have this period of time where you have maybe 2 or 3 or 4 people that have less than 4 or 5 years of tattooing under their belt, which affects the work coming out of your shop. So it's kind of even no matter how good they're going to be, or no matter how well they draw, obviously their tattoos have to catch up. So
I've had a couple of apprentice situations where I've had somebody come up and they just completely, flaked, and it was not, so I basically was just like, okay, I'll get 2 or 3 apprentices and just, play the odds, and one of them would come out,
right.
And honestly, that's all I can do. I mean, that's not like I'm charging for an apprenticeship. So if you're willing to come in every day and put the time in and actually, learn something and improve and not get caught up in how cool this job is, because a lot of people tend to do that too.
Yeah,
they come in thinking that tattooing is just you're going to come in and your friends are going to like you more, or somehow or another you're going to be more popular because everybody wants a free freaking tattoo, know, and
that wears off pretty quickly whenever you have to come in.
Yeah, especially if you're
clean.
Especially if you're if you come in with the attitude of wanting to actually tattoo and be serious about it and make this a career, which is a career. It's can be a very lucrative one if you just dedicate time and just be. You have to give to this in order to get anything back.
Yeah.
And I know I've paid my dues, many times over. I know when I started and I was cleaning tubes and making needles for 5 other people besides myself, and being at the shop from open to close 7 days a week at a busy shop at that.
What shop did you start at?
Trilogy.
Trilogy, okay.
Man, it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
Being in there and cleaning, and then once I started tattooing, then I was still cleaning and tubes and making needles and tattooing.
Right.
So it was just like,
yeah.
Eventually it was just like, you know what, y'all gonna have to start cleaning your own freaking tubes, or we're gonna have to get another apprentice.
Right. Well, I think that approach of trying out 2 or 3 people at a time, I don't know how to expect that or how that's worked for you. You'd think it could like create some bit of like competitive spirit or something like that, where people wanted to outdo the other one, or does it? I wonder if it just tends to make one of them quit faster if you're trying to apprentice, like trying multiple people out at one time.
I kind of want them quit faster.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as being competitive or whatever, that's cool. But if you're just trying to be competitive by, either bad mouthing someone or just being competitive by, whatever reason would want to make you competitive, honestly, you have to compete with yourself. There's no reason to compete with other people. I mean, art itself. I mean, you can't. I don't think that you're going to have an honest expression of what it is that you're trying to, put out there if you're trying to compete or make something better than someone else.
Right.
Because all you wind up doing is either copying them, a bad copy of it, or if it's a better copy of it, then you're still there's nothing original about
yourself.
it. Yeah. Still, you're
that's
not.
A good point.
So I think that if people, I think the apprenticeship would be a lot easier and fruitful if they actually came in and wanted to have a job that's going to last forever and because honestly there's no reason to be too competitive, because more than likely I'll just tell you to fuck off, because I can't have that kind of weird animosity in the shop.
Right. I
mean, I'm sure that throughout your experiences underground art, there've been people that just weren't cool with other people.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
And they fucked off, because honestly, the core. I think, to me, I'm the only person here with any kind of experience. So, I built a shop I built the shop that I've always wanted to work at. So, in order for other people to come in and feel welcome, then
they need to have a similar attitude.
Yeah, it has to be, they have to obviously be some kind of geek, they have to be some kind of collectors.
We should get some shots around after this just so we can clip it in. Yeah.
So there's a certain aesthetic at the shop.
Yeah.
And
that's a different thing, and it's something that the underground's always struggled with too. Is it's not as easy as finding someone to fill a space at your insurance office or wherever, because if you can sit down and do the data entry, then you're and spell, then you're fine. But tattoo shops, because they're in creative environments, tend to. If there's not some kind of harmony within the shop between the people in the shop, then it affects everyone. So you can't just have someone in there that might just be a great artist but is a dick to everybody, or if there's any kind of animosity, especially in small shops. I think in any shop, I don't think there's any shop big enough that you can get away with having people that don't get along and it be successful.
Yeah, and in a shop where all you're doing is just custom work and there's no walk-ins, then you're also dealing with people. I want someone that's talented as an artist to come in and learn to tattoo. So if I'm taking on an apprentice, that they're going to have to they have to know how to draw.
Sure.
And be good at it. And tattooing, it's almost secondary to the point where once they start tattooing, then it's 99% all technique.
Right.
Has nothing to do with art.
Learning the skill at that point.
So.
That's one thing that I've heard David say over and over, and we've talked about on the show before, is like, I can, David will say, like, I can teach a monkey to tattoo, but I can't teach you, or I don't have the time to invest to teach you how to vary line weights and why, or how to use a single light source or fake a light source, or how to create color harmony, or like if you can't draw and put together something like in front of me that's believable, that looks like it could really exist, then I'm fighting an uphill battle. I just can't make it happen.
And and it's like I've had a couple of apprentices that I've been I've had to make myself give them drawing assignments. Yeah. Because you're just not you can't not there. This is not the kind of shop you're gonna make any money doing names. Right. People are not going to walk in here wanting, script all the time. It just doesn't happen, Yeah. And also even my clients that refer their friends that want to get some script or something, and I can pass them off to an apprentice. I don't feel confident enough to do that. Right. With that, nowhere near. Sure. With Clear, I think that like I said, the next couple of months, I have no problem with her doing simple stuff, and she's already doing stuff that I mean, she's tattooing a lot of her friends. She's got a bunch of friends that she went to art school with, and she's had the luxury of tattooing her own designs, which
that's nice.
That's really cool. She's able to reproduce line work that she's done on paper, on skin, and really see.
And that how tattooable it is, what she might need to change, things like that.
So
that's just invaluable. Really, if you're able to instantly translate your own drawings to tattoos, you start to realize like, oh, how many of those lines do I really need in that design?
And she's getting to do a lot of cool, like weird little X-Files references and weird Twin Peaks, just weird, kind of sci-fi and
having art school friends.
Yeah,
nice.
Exactly. So she gets to do cool stuff and she's doing really well. So, and I think that's probably one of the biggest differences for her coming up as an apprentice now than when we did. And we didn't get, there was no, there were no X-Files and all that.
Right.
People were wanting to get, Eagles and whatever the shit else. Cherry Creek at the cell or whatever. You kind of flash,
Right. I was changing names on the flash or adding names in the banner. That was my full-time gig. It was and our audience has heard me say it 100 times, but in driving the shuttle to the Navy base to pick up the Navy kids to bring them back to the shop and then taking them back to the Navy base. It was a pretty sweet gig. Yeah. Things have changed. Where, if people want to find you, the best way to find you is what, through the...
RoninMemphis@gmail.com.
Okay. If they want to look at your work, Instagram?
RoninMemphis.com.
Okay, RoninMemphis.com.
Or Facebook just made me change my... I had just Ronin Memphis on Facebook, but they made me change to Babak, Ronin Memphis type of device.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah, it's like, they sent me an email and locked me out of the Facebook and sent me an email saying that we don't believe that this is the name that you use every day in your life, and people refer you by, and I was like, well, no shit, it's my business.
Right. So you had to put your name up to bookend it with your name?
And use Ronin Memphis as my middle name.
I saw that happen. I didn't know why you did it. I thought it looked strange.
Yeah, because then I was locked out for like 3 days out of Facebook.
Oh,
and then Ronin Memphis on Instagram. And
it's RONIN if you guys aren't here. Yeah.
RONIN Memphis.
Cool.
And that's where I post all my newer stuff. So.
Yeah, that's where I kind of keep up with what you're doing. Well, man, your client's been super patient. I'm going to let you get to tattooing.
Cool.
Appreciate
awesome.
it. All right,
absolutely.
Thanks everybody. Go to tattooimprovement.com and do sign up for the mailing list. We'll mail you Scott's wife's titties. Yeah.
Oh, shit.